Welcome to Thriving Moms of Autistics podcast, a free resource for moms raising young autistic children. I am your host, Dr. Christina Wilson. I created Thriving Moms of Autistics after years of experience working with families and having my own autistic child. I coach moms of young autistics one-on-one to tap into their strengths, create a supportive community, set firm boundaries, and raise their autistic child with confidence. Subscribe to the podcast and check out the earlier episodes so you don't miss a thing. Now, let's get to it. Hi, Mom. I am what you might call a late bloomer. I went to college and grad school and then dove first into my practice. And I was married to my work for many, many, many years. Now, I have lifelong friends that I love so much. And some of those friends chose to get married and have children right away. Or even after school, they went straight into raising families. But by the time I slowed down and married and had my child, their kids were graduating from high school. So it's kind of like we were just passing in the night. Very, very different worlds that, lives that we were leading at the time. Now, I remember what it was like when, we would get that 2 or 3 minutes just to catch up with each other on the phone. And I just longed for those times that I would get to chat with them. And we were constantly interrupted. You know how it is. Everyone wants a piece of mom, right? And I didn't fully understand then. But now I do, now that I'm a mom. So why am I even telling you this? Well, I didn't get it initially because I had never had that experience as a mom. How many times have you looked back and realized that you didn't fully understand the situation because there was missing information or you just had never had that experience? And we all have those moments, every single one of us. So show some grace to those who didn't fully understand what we were experiencing at a time. Is it possible to deal with misunderstandings and maintain friendships with those who don't get it? Well, in this episode, I explore navigating isolation, awkward moments, and when others don't understand autism. So find the full transcript for this episode at thrivingmomsofautistics.com/84 and share the podcast with other moms so that they can grow just like you are in your autism journey. Or you can also leave a review on Apple Podcast, and that will further our reach. Or you can also click subscribe at the Thriving Moms of Autistics YouTube channel. I appreciate you. So why do some people struggle with understanding a mom's autism journey? And can that even be changed? Well, moms of autistic children often feel isolated. That is often reported, especially in the beginning, around the diagnosis and in the early years. Challenging for so many reasons. Others don't understand why you handle situation differently with your child, or why your child requires different parenting strategies. For example, spanking my child would increase the behaviors because he is sensory seeking, right? So, and obviously he would get something out of that. Many neurotypicals don't get it. Or if you have a child that is the opposite of sensory seeking and, they just experience things so differently in a way that is really harmful to them. The loud music, things like that. That's not going to work, right? So I kind of want to dive into the psychology behind our thoughts for a moment. So, as human beings, we mentally organize information that we know about the world, okay, based on our experiences, because we all have different experiences, right? And now these are known as schema, which help us interpret new information. Now, also as human beings, we can learn and adapt to new information. Unfortunately, we try to fit that new information into the existing schemas, which leads to misinterpretation, misunderstanding, when it doesn't fit like we think it should. So there is the disconnect. So can we learn to understand the challenges of others? Of course. Of course we can. We learn by watching others as they experience challenges when we are open to it, okay? And we move beyond our existing schema. Now, I struggled with all the interruptions when I was trying to catch up with my long-time friends. And my journey was just different from theirs at that time because I didn't have those experiences until I was in my 40s. And I genuinely wanted to know how they were doing and to support them. Now, having children at that time was completely foreign to me, but I had great empathy for others. And that bridged the gap between my experiences and theirs. I wanted to view the world through their lens just to better understand their perspective. And that's who I am in general. I do have great empathy. And, autistics, people sometimes think that they don't have deep emotions, but they actually have very, very deep emotions and do experience empathy. Lots of misconceptions out there about autism, right? So just because someone doesn't get autism at that time doesn't mean that they won't learn or they don't want to learn. So how do you build a supportive community? In the meantime, what do you do? Well, I have those lifelong friends still, and they are as supportive as they can be. They're wonderful. Now, will there be some that take their lack of understanding to a toxic level? Absolutely. But I no longer surround myself with those people. I just don't. Um, so when we think about achieving the goal of gaining a supportive community as moms of autistic, the goal is to build a healthy, supportive community that you can count on during those challenging times and celebrate the victories with. Now, I left mom groups and I changed pediatricians because they don't understand autism. That's not easy, but I do. I do it. They were toxic and I don't have time for that. I think you know what I mean. I refuse to subject my son to that. And he has enough challenges, and I don't want that for him. And I don't want it for myself. I don't need that. Now, I have a couple of family members, distant, uh, non-biological, who don't understand autism and create a lot of chaos when they're around. But I don't see them that often. And when I do, I set very, very firm boundary. They know that I mean what I say and that I will follow through. I have no problem with that. So, what does your supportive community look like? Mine includes lifelong friends and family that do their best to support us, and several people who get my autism journey because they're on the same journey, which is wonderful, right? Um, there was a time when I didn't have this at all. And I've been very open about how we hit rock bottom, my husband and I. And we realized we no longer could do this on our own. And we needed that support system that was near us because our families, his family is actually one direction and my family is another direction. So they don't live where we do. And having others who show up for play date, for sensory meltdown, and stressful meeting has just changed our world. And our son feels so loved. And he has friends now. It's wonderful. Now, in the next week, consider those times you wish that you had that supportive environment. Think about that. What were those times like for you? We no longer we no longer hear those like insensitive comments. Sometimes they're not even intentional, but, about meltdowns. Oh, you should spank that out of them or, things like that. People that are really trying to help and it's not very helpful. We don't deal with those cancellations anymore. Now, let me be clear. None of us are perfect. Are just not. But we are a blessing to one another, and I'm so thankful for the people I'm surrounded by. So I'm going to give you 3 tips for bridging the gap while developing your autism support. Um, and the first is to communicate. That's really important. Gosh, that's important for everything in life, isn't it? Communicate your child's sensory needs and their strengths and their challenges. Because if not, then they aren't going to know, right? Include others. Allow others to experience your autism journey because that's really the point, right? Give them a chance to learn if they aren't toxic. And set boundaries, firm boundaries. Now, you may not have control over what others think or what they do, how they behave, but you do have control over who you include in your community of support, right? You have that control. Do you need help developing your supportive community? And if you do, I can help with that. In my Thrive VIP program. So check that out at thrivingmomsofautistics.com and click on Work with Christina, or you can go to the transcript as well. And I have the link there. I hope this helped today. I really do. And I look forward to our time next week. Thanks for listening to Thriving Moms of Autistics podcast. Be sure to leave a review and tell other moms of autistics about the podcast. Let's support each other. Find the full transcript for this episode at thrivingmomsofautistics.com. And be assured, you are not alone in your journey.